Great in my studio car.
You're once again in your vehicle. You said your house is being shown today. Is that right?
Yeah, we're selling our condo, so we're showing it. A lot of showings this morning. It's pouring rain out, so if you hear some rain, that's if you hear some things in the background, that's what that is.
All right. And we also have a great guest today. Dan Cevette is here from PBR New York. Dan's a former professional baseball player. Currently is in Terminator mode, just completing his workout where he squatted, what was it, 1,100 pounds, you said?
Yeah, at least.
At least. Dan, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, pumped to be on here with you guys and talk about baseball, the state of the game, what we do, my story. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so Dan and I connected last week. We had a lot of viewership of our Jeff Fry Richard episode, and I've been aware of him for a little bit on the web. He has a good message, constantly tweeting out just like good things for parents and players and coaches to understand about the recruiting process and just about the game in general. So we were excited to have him here on the show. And you do have a crazy story. So it's funny that you're like in sleeveless. I was just watching Total Recall. Have you seen that movie?
Probably. It's not ringing a bell, but
So back in the day, Arnold Schwarzenegger's like he's like a construction worker, but he's really a secret agent. And then he goes up to Mars, and so you were working out in the oil fields,
yeah,
a couple years ago before you got back into baseball. Can you touch on that?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is, guys, I'm 250 pounds now and 6'4", and when I got drafted in 2002, I was 165. So if you can imagine, there's been quite a difference
It's insane.
In the way I've trained. I actually train harder now that I'm not playing, which is kind of not a really positive thing to tell the kids. But yeah. So what's actually cool is where it first started. You know, I came from one of the smallest public schools in Pennsylvania. 32 kids in my graduating class. And super fortunate to get drafted in the third round out of high school. I was actually the Pennsylvania Player of the Year. I have no idea how that even got picked, but it happened. It was a surreal situation for me and my family and the town. And played a long time, dealt with some injuries, and just battled. You know, learned the game. I learned to respect the game a lot, and just how to be a good person, how to show up on time for things and work through adversity. And
so you were 6'4" and 165 in high school.
Yep.
And is that right?
Yeah.
And you were a third round draft pick out of high school, right?
Yep.
What was that like? I mean, you'd have so many scouts at the games to be drafted that high at a high school, right?
Yeah. Best story ever was my last start of my high school season. I was at a place called Coneski Valley, which is in northern Pennsylvania. They had no fence. They had cows grazing in the back in the field. And I'm not joking. Cows were about 450 feet away. And I had about 38 scouts there. I had quite a few scouting directors and some area guys. Every team was in attendance. And I gave up a home run. This kid hit a ball that went across the highway. It was one of the largest home runs I've ever given up, even in pro ball. And after the game, I rode home with the Indian scout that ended up drafting me because I had to do one of those psychological tests. And he said, he goes, "What'd you think?" And I said, "I cannot believe I just blew my chances." Because, I'm 18 years old. You don't have a clue. You think you just ruined it by giving up a home run. He's like, "Dan, that pitch was 91 on the inside. Tip your cap to the hitter, but you just earned yourself a lot of money." So that was crazy to me at that time, thinking, wow, I threw a 91 mile an hour pitch that got hit 400 feet, and that elevated me into the top 5 rounds. So it's just crazy. It's crazy how it happened. But yeah, I had tons of scouts at all my starts, and it was humbling. And I've always been coming from a small blue collar town. I got one stoplight in my town. My parents still live there. My brother doesn't live too far from there. So I'm a humble guy. I know we all have egos in the baseball world, and it's just part of the game, I think, because we take a lot of pride in what we do. We have a lot of passion.
When you have that game face, it's hard to turn those on and off and not have them kind of bleed into each other, right?
Yeah, I think some guys get misread or misunderstood, and that they have a crazy ego, or they're just an egomaniac. I actually had with my Twitter account. I never had Twitter. 2017, I said, I'm going to start this and try to motivate people through some of my experiences. And like, what do I know? I wasn't a big leaguer, and who's going to follow me? Unbelievable. Like, it just kind of like blew up. And now it's like, I feel like it's a purpose to try to help these kids. And I'm so thankful that I do what I do with PBR. But also, if they're not coming to one of my events, they could be from Texas right now. And if I could give them any advice, it'd be, it's really what I'm trying to do, is just give advice to people and through my experience. And hopefully the platform, is positive. I'm not going to be a negative guy. Okay. So I've had a lot of adversity playing the game. We just talked about it. You asked about it, about the oil field. When I got out of playing, I went and coached college baseball in 2008 and 9, and realized that wasn't going to be my ticket. I coached Division I as a recruiting coordinator. Then I was a head coach at a junior college. While I was the head coach at a junior college, I was working the night shift at a airport. So I worked the night shift at an airport to coach junior college during the day. And I was running on fumes, and so I needed a change. And basically, the oil field was kicking in the Northeast back in like 2011, 12, 13, that range. There was the Marcellus Shale, they call it, and it was they were really getting after it. I had a buddy that was in it, and he said, "Hey, come either week." He's like, "We're making crazy money," and I'm like, "All right." So I jumped in. I didn't know a thing about it, but what I did know was how to work. So I took the sledgehammers, I took whatever I could, and I just got after it. I remember I started in like January, and you're out swinging hammers, hanging off a wellhead 25 feet in the air, and it's like 20 degrees, and your hands go numb, and you feel like, there's a lot of pressure on what you're doing because everyone's on the ground watching you swing this hammer and try to make sure you don't screw it up. And I have the passion and the ego about, not screwing up, being good. So I learned really fast I gained everyone's respect quick, and I moved up the ladder in like 6 months. I was a coil tubing operator. I ended up getting sent to Oklahoma and got a crane license. I have a CDL. I went to well control school. I had like, if we had like someone watching that makes movies, we got a plot right now, because it is exact, and this is not fabricated at all. So I'm in the oil field for about a year and a half. It's making good money. I'm grinding, but we're working 84 hours a week minimum. The 1 week we worked the entire week. We got paid for every hour in the day. We had to shift sleeping because we were the only crew there, and there was no relief. So we were literally working round the clock, and that got a little bit tough. And the main guy on my unit said, you used to play baseball, I want you to show me how you threw. And I was like, well, we don't have anything on site to throw. So no joke, I went and like grabbed some rocks, like these, rocks. And I was throwing rocks on the side in work boots and overalls, showing, the guy was trying to show off to his other guys, like, oh, I got an ex-pro player on my staff, no one believed him. So I started doing that, and I was like, I'm just going to keep throwing a little bit. And 2 weeks of throwing rocks in Ohio, I remember, I asked the guy, hey, can I go to an open tryout in Allentown, Pennsylvania? And he said, yeah, I'll let you take the company truck. We're not even going to tell headquarters. You just take it, you go, you come back, we won't say a word. So I did that. I got halfway. It was pouring rain. The guy texted me. It was a Major League Scouting Bureau guy. This was, they don't even have that anymore. Major League Scouting Bureau guy says, hey, we got to cancel the tryout. And I was like, well, I'm like halfway, and I gotta do this. And so he said, I'll get a local catcher. We'll find a bullpen, and once it clears up, you throw. So I did that. I got to throw, and believe it or not, like I was 94 to 97 from the left side, and I hadn't thrown that hard ever. I was 91, 93 pretty much throughout my entire career in pro ball. So now I'm swinging sledgehammers, getting physical, getting man strength, and now I'm throwing 94, 97. And I remember he came up to me, he said, listen, I don't know what this means, but I have to put it out on the wire to every team. And I drove back in the company truck. I got about halfway, and I had like 7 offers to get back into pro ball. So that's when I said, hey, I'm gonna do this again. I'm still young enough. I'm not tied down to anything, and I'm gonna get after it. So I had my agent from when I played was still a really good friend. He said, "Hey, let's set up a workout." I had like 15 teams down in Florida. I went to Embry-Riddle. You guys are familiar with that? Went to Embry-Riddle.
Yeah.
The coach was awesome down there. He was like, "Hey, come down, throw to my guys, and we'll host it." And it was great. So I did that. I was sitting 93, 96, solid 83 mile an hour slider, which is the best I've ever thrown a slider in my life. And I literally had to negotiate with like 4 teams. Signed with the Pirates and went to Double A with them. Did the big league spring training the next year, and it was awesome. I got to play in my home state in Altoona, and now that then I fast forward and I went to the winter leagues, played, and ended up deciding to jump into the PBR world. And I'll be honest with you guys, like I love playing, and I love the traveling and the grind of trying to get to the big leagues. You know what I mean? Like every time you went out, you had brothers. You had brothers on the other side. You had brothers in the bullpen, but you were competing, right? You were still trying to outdo everybody because you wanted to get to the big leagues. And I thought that really, really taught me a lot about, just working through life and all the challenges it gives you, because, you may be at a workplace with someone and you both want to be that next level job, but it's a friend of yours, and you got to find a way to get through those kind of things. So loved it, but so happy what I'm doing now, helping just thousands of kids. And, there's a lot of bad eggs in the amateur baseball world. I can promise you guys that me and my staff in New York and PA, we are the good guys, and we're working very hard for the amateur player now. And I think that's easily seen by what we do on social media and what we do at our events. That was a long-winded answer.
Well, so we need to jump back if this is like our movie script here. So once you got signed, like, what was the word from the guys on the oil field?
Well, they were happy for me. They thought it was cool from the start that they had a guy that played pro ball that was with them. I mean, I was with guys from Oklahoma, from Texas. They were all up in the Northeast, and they didn't know anybody. And I have a solid personality, so like we got along really well. And like I said, I worked hard. I'm not lazy, so I worked hard, and people respected that. If you're getting out, people respect that. And I think they also thought it was cool that I was able to advance really fast. Like the crane license was actually a really big deal, guys. Like I can go operate a crane in any state right now, which is pretty wild to think, to be honest with you. Like I could go do that and make, $75 an hour if I wanted. But
just
cool.
Pick up Bobby in his Jeep right here and just toss him in the river. In the
street. I could pick him up and set him down really nice, easily. We'd have some fun. And yeah, it's cool. And like driving a CDL, like, do you guys know how much pressure I was driving a coil tubing unit that weighed 180,000 pounds. Okay.
No one knows what a coil tubing unit is, Dan. All right. You got to clarify what these things are.
Okay. So if anyone that cares, which probably no one does.
Yep, you're right. No one, but go on. We do want to hear this.
A fracking unit is like, they go in and they go down to the ground. They have a well. They create all these stages to try to get natural gas out of the ground. Okay. That's like really not great explanation of what it is. A coil tubing unit is the coil that goes down in the ground about 6,000 feet and then goes out another 6,000 feet, and it either cleans out the wells or it drills plugs. That they put plugs in each stage of a frac. You drill them out so you can start getting natural gas to flow. Like I said, hopefully no one cares what I'm talking about, but that's what a coil tubing unit is. And you have to operate the coil through a spool. It goes down, and you have to do all that, and you have to watch weights and all this crap. You have to have lubrication down the hole, pumping through. There's a lot of things to it, and it is dangerous. You're dealing with natural gas and like really deep in the ground, and you got to know what you're doing. That's why I went to well control school and all that stuff. But
yeah, I'm sure that stuff's really, really complicated, and the tech is crazy that they're. I mean, you just said 6,000 feet, like that's so deep into the ground. Like it's crazy, and then it goes left.
It's a mile, isn't that over a mile?
Yeah, it is, and then you go another mile out. So you go down a mile, out a mile. Some are longer than that. So the farther you get away, the more weight and stuff, the pressures you have to look at, because you're getting weaker the farther you get away from your unit. But yeah, I'm driving those around the hills of West Virginia, 180,000 pounds. I'm telling you, you want to talk about being tight. Pitching in the ninth inning with the base load is nothing. driving a coil tubing unit with people in the thing at 180,000 pounds going down hills and up hills, scary as shit. So not good.
I actually have a slight experience with that kind of thing. So
What?
hear me out. Well, obviously I'd never had a commercial driver's license, but in 2000, I want to say 2013, or no, 2012, my business partner, Lucas Cook, and I was a really good shopper for strength equipment in my academy. So I was always looking for like surplus auctions and stuff like that. I was holding out for dumbbells for forever. Because if you've ever bought dumbbells, they're crazy expensive. Like you have one 60-pound dumbbell that costs $90.
Yeah.
And then you need another one that's also $90. It's like the worst value for what dumbbells sit on the rack most of the time, right? You need multiple pairs. So kids have everything they need. I held out for a long time, just like looking for the right buy. Finally, Iowa State had all of their football exercise equipment on auction because they got a new weight room. I was like, it's time. We bought something like 15,000 pounds of dumbbells for $3,200, something like that. Like we had two sets of every weight up to 125. So we had 2 pairs of 115s, 2 pairs of 110s, 2 pairs of 105s. It's an insane set of dumbbells that we got. So we had to go pick them up, which is about 5 hours away. And we rented the biggest truck that you could rent. So it was like a 16-foot or truck or something, whatever. The biggest thing you could rent without having to have a CDL. And we get to Iowa State. It takes us 4 hours to load them out by hand because we were stupid and didn't bring like hand trucks and stuff. We had like farmers walk all these weights out. And then we put them in this truck. And it was so far overloaded. It was like insane because we bought those dumbbells. We also bought a bunch of weight plates and some barbells. And it was like 5,000 pounds over the truck's limit. Like it was a really unsafe, bad thing to do. Dan's shaking his head. And so, Dan, I'm sure you can imagine, then we had a blizzard essentially. So it was like snowing the whole way. And I was driving and I was like, I'm going to kill Lucas. As soon as I made any turn, the whole truck was just like kept wanting to go that way. It was terrifying. I was white knuckling it the whole way. It was blizzarding. We had way too much weight in the back. I'm like, I'm going to kill my business partner. We just become partners. I'm like, this is the worst. And it was, so I have a little bit of appreciation for what you mean. It was terrifying.
The weight probably saved your ass.
So it could have
kept your tires on the ground.
Yeah. It could have, dude. It was scary. And Peoria, Illinois, for those who've been there, is really windy, like into the city. And we had to go through there. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. I made an executive decision to take another hour route to go into a flatter place because I was like, there's no way I'm going to take some of those curves downhill in this truck. Like, no.
Let me tell you a quick story. Super quick.
We got all the time you need, Dan.
I'm driving down Interstate 80, okay, on Pennsylvania. If anyone's familiar with that. And it's a little windy. I'm in between Du Bois, PA, and State College, okay? So just to give you guys a little idea where we're at. I'm going down Interstate 80. I have passenger with me in the coil tubing unit. We're going down around a bend. You're going around 65 miles an hour. We blow a front tire, okay? So I blow a front tire, and your first initial thing is to hit the trailer brake, which you do not do because we're going downhill at 65 miles an hour, 180,000 pounds. We have a cliff up here. We skid for probably 700 feet.
That's a long skid.
I will tell you this much. As soon as that happened, I started looking for other jobs because I was scared to death to drive after that happened. In fact, I was begging to just drive the crane, which was almost like a truck. It wasn't as heavy. It was way easier to control. The back end of the trailer started to move a little bit. And if that would have tipped, we would all died. I mean, we would have literally died. So it was the scariest thing ever. And I'm telling you, I don't know if baseball helped me through that, but some of my experiences in the Appalachian League probably got me through it. I got booed out. My first year, I go out to pitch, and the home crowd, it's your home crowd. I give up 5 spots in the first inning. I got 1 out. My home crowd is literally booing me. I was the fresh draft pick. I got this guy yelling to throw a knuckleball. He's in the things. It's in the stands. I'm getting booed as they pull me because I throw over 30 pitches. You know, they had the Indians had a rule. If you throw over 30 in the first inning, you're done. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
I had 35 pitches, 1 out. They come out and pull me, and I'm getting booed. I remember going in the shower to take a shower, and I sat in my locker. It was my second or third start in pro ball, and I'm like, what the hell did I just get into? Like, I just dominated everybody in high school. And literally, I am getting crushed. Jeff Francoeur hit a ball so far off me that night. It was insane. The Danville Braves were loaded, man. They had Brian McCann, Esquivel, Matt Diaz. I mean, they were unbelievable for advanced rookie, and I was wet behind the ears at 18 years old. Nuts.
The Appy League. What a league.
You guys are going to see real quick. I like to jump all over the place.
Well, that's what we do in the show anyway. I mean, we back and forth. I mean,
I've
I'd love
got
to talk more about
I've
Total
got
Recall,
driving,
whatever.
yeah. I've got driving horror stories. We can stay on that for a couple hours.
Bob, what's your favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie?
Kindergarten Cop.
That's the worst pick. I mean, that's what I would expect out of you.
No.
It's the worst.
I'm not a big Arnold
You got to pick one
guy.
of the throwback ones. I was watching The Running Man recently. Such a weird. He's just like, just the whole time, just making Arnold noises. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's why you watch an Arnold movie.
I went to big league spring training with the Royals, and across the hall from me, across the thing, was Kyle Farnsworth. That is who made me want to be a beast. That guy.
Yeah, he was just annihilating people, both with thrown balls and with form tackles on the mound.
Yeah. He's an awesome guy, and he's like super chill, down to earth. But man, he is fiery. And I was like, I want to get like that. I want to be physical, and I literally have now. I've probably been seriously working out for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and it's a lifestyle now. I mean, it's if I miss a day, literally it hurts. It makes my day bad. Like, I need to work out during the day. I need to get a sweat going. I need to feel like I'm accomplishing something. So, yeah.
So throughout your pro career, what was your playing weight? Like, when the day you retired finally, after your second stint, what was your playing weight?
About 225, 230.
So you're trending upward, but 6'4", 225 is like not. I mean, that's like a pretty average looking athlete, right?
I was pretty physical when I got back into it. Like I said, I was swinging sledgehammers, 16-pound sledgehammers for a year and a half. You get your forearm strength is. I really attest the velocity to the forearm strength. I never did a program, the new programs, and I'm not against them. I'm not against anyone out there trying to help players and make a living. Not against any of it, but I just didn't do it. I did long toss, and I think the physicality of the grip strength, the forearms, because the Dominicans always used to say, duro. They point to their forearm, and that's how they threw hard. And you don't know that when you're young, but.
Well, the thing with forearm strength is this is one of the things I think it's interesting for people to conceptualize is you could be like a bodybuilder and be really big and strong here and wherever else. And you could have really weak forearms, like if you're not holding lots and lots of weight in your hands. But the opposite is not true. If you can hold 500-600 pounds in your hands and you have really strong forearms, everything else up the chain is strong with it.
Yeah.
So I think the forearms are definitely underrated as far as things to train, not to mention that they help protect your elbow. But people that have really strong forearms, not just big, but really strong forearms, they're strong everywhere else because, yeah, your forearms grew and got big because you're swinging a sledgehammer, but everything else was equally as strong as those forearms were because of swinging that sledgehammer, right? It's almost like these are an indicator of how good your like entire muscular chain is. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and what's really interesting to me is I've gotten a lot bigger, but I haven't lost flexibility. And it's not, and so I try to, I don't know if you've probably seen a few tweets, but that's one of my biggest things now is like, I think the game has shifted to bigger, stronger, faster. I'm an advocate of that, but flexibility is the king. Okay. So when I would do sit and reach, I'd be like +7. So I had a ton of flexibility in my lower half and my hips. And there's a huge correlation now that we know that hip separation, shoulder separation, all that stuff can help create torque within the body. Now, if we're strong, physical, but we still have that flexibility, it's just common sense that you're going to have more velocity. I mean, with a batter or a hitter, you're going to get more torque in the swing or throwing. And because you see the guys that are bulky like me, but they can't move. They can't move. Yeah. I'm super flexible, and it's just lucky, I guess. But I'm a huge advocate of the flexibility, and I threw in February just because my staff guys wanted to see if I could still throw. I was still 90, 91, without even a throwing program. Just you know, and I've always thought, hey, I'm going to go throw for 3 months and then go see what I can do. Why? Because I have fire and I'm, you know, a baseball guy, and that's what we do. We test ourselves.
Yeah. Bob and I have talked about old man strength a bunch recently.
Yeah.
It's been like a theme on the show. Bob, are you working out at all these days?
I started doing it again. I was kind of on the Dan program.
What's the Dan program?
You're both Dans. I can't even reference the Dan Cevette program. Cevette.
Yep.
Just because I was doing, I've always done construction, so I've always had the jackhammer. I've always done concrete work. Even when I was younger, I would help my uncle and my dad. So like holding a wheelbarrow full of concrete, wet concrete, like the stabilizing muscles you have to use in your core, because it's a one wheel. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they just want to go. Mm-hmm.
And it's all forearms. So I mean, I don't know if I always had a good arm. I don't attribute it to doing construction. Like, it's not as blatantly obvious as maybe what you were doing, but I've always been doing some of that physical stuff, and now it's even more so. Like, I jump back in the weight room and deadlift pretty much what I did when I was playing, without deadlifting in a couple months at least. Just old man strength. I mean, it's as we age, I feel like your muscles just figure it out, like how to stay strong without the consistent reps.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Dan, I have the opposite experience of you. I was lifting like an animal from the first day I set foot in college at 18 all the way up until when I retired at 30. And then I had like we had to break up, and I'm just now trying to get past that. And I've worked out for 3 straight weeks, Bob. 3 straight weeks. I'm going to go again today. Today will be the first time I've done 3 strength workouts in a week in almost 4 years. And it's still weird. It's like hard for me. I don't feel the way you do, Dan, where, you know, you need to do it and you feel refreshed. And it's like, I did it so long chasing that dream that when that dream was dead, I just like, it had to get off me. And I'm trying to figure out what fitness looks like for me now. So it's funny that every athlete's journey is different. And I've had like some weird feelings recently, just being back under the bar, because I've been working in a CrossFit gym. I don't do CrossFit. I have like an open gym membership there, and it's hot in there. It's the same atmosphere as before. I like feel like my old self for the first time in a long time in there, like, but I don't have the same goals, and it's really, it's hard. It's been a weird experience, like mentally. It's hard to describe, but just like recently, a lot of stuff's been like flooding back. Like, I feel like I'm 20 years old again, and but I'm not. So I don't know. The whole thing is weird. I mean, I'm happy that I'm in a routine again. Like, it's definitely sticking. Like, I'm gonna keep going, but like the way I feel about it isn't the way like you feel about it, Dan, or like some other people who are just really like, it's like a bright spot in their day. That's just like not how it is for me. But every athlete's different in the way they interact with stuff after their sport ends.
That's how I am with cardio. I was a pitcher, and I said I am basically a shagger, a pitcher, and a runner. And I did that for 11 years professionally. And I told myself, I'm not running again, ever. Well, you know, I think I need to, you know, now that I
feel better when I run, for sure. I like having my lungs in shape.
Yeah, I started running again, you know, just distance running, not any like interval stuff, but just distance. And it's a pain to get through. I need to do work, you know, on the road. I can't do like treadmills. So I'm out there doing some road work, and man, after though, you feel amazing. Like you feel so good after you get out there and you got the sweat going. So I've started doing that recently, because, you know, 250 is insane. Like it's a really strong 250, but man, like, I'm like, wow, like 250 is a lot of, it's on your legs. It's a lot of stuff. I mean,
yeah, it's gonna be tough to run that one with that much weight, for sure. Like, my dad was an amazing distance runner, and it, you know, just like anything else, the sport selects your body for you. So there's a reason all those marathoners are 114 pounds, you know. So it's tough to be running with that much weight. I mean, I'm 200 pounds, and it's still, I feel heavy at times just jogging. Like, ugh.
Well, let's transition into a little PBR talk, because that's the Twitter topic of the week, and it's also, you know, where you make a living, Dan. So tell us a little bit about PBR New York, what you guys do, and kind of what's happening up in the Northeast.
Yeah, so let me kind of start with where it happened. I was playing in Puerto Rico, 2014 in the Winter Leagues, and was dealing with a little bit of an arm injury, like I basically most of my career, unfortunately. So it was time to start to transition and see what could I do and what could I do to stay in the game. College coaching. I did go back and get my college degree in 2009 while I was in the Texas League. So I did have that. So I was like, all right, I got a college degree. I got all this pro experience. I should be able to land a coaching job or something in the game, scouting, whatever. And I saw PBR. Honestly, I had no idea what it was. That was in 2014. No idea what it was. PBR, no clue. I know Pabst Blue Ribbon and I know professional bull riding. That's what I knew was PBR. So I had no idea what it was. But I emailed the guy that started it all, and we went back and forth on some conversations. And long story short, I flew out to Chicago, met everybody. We hit it off, and basically, on my flight back to New York, they said they called me in Detroit and said, "Hey, we want you to be the guy that crushes New York." And so I said, "Okay." And I've been at it since then. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any connections. But again, a common theme to this whole conversation is I worked hard, and I was willing to not make any money to start and work really hard, build relationships with people, prove that we were going to be consistent, we were going to be credible, we were going to be honest, and that it wasn't going to be a money grab, because there's a lot of those in our business. Unfortunately, That's what we live in. So I told myself, I will never be that. And I will go neck to neck, whatever, with anyone who thinks differently. I will never be a money grab. We will work our fingers to the bone. We'll work hours to help the kids. We'll do things for free. We'll scout the high school seasons for free. And that's what we did. We don't charge a player anything. We scouted last year in New York. We wrote up 500 players in the high school season in New York. Literally $0 was generated from that. And that's fine, because that's their high school season. That's the kids' time to shine. And, if the kids chose to come to a showcase, that's on the parents. They make that decision. But if they come, we are going to give them everything that we say that we're going to give them. We're going to give them an opportunity, a platform. But there's some ownership involved, guys. And that's the problem, I think. There's ownership. If you come and you don't do well, that's not my fault, right? If we made a mistake, we'll fix it. But it's not our fault, if you didn't perform well. Not every player is a showcase guy. You don't think I get that? I was a baseball player. I know what showcase guys are and what they aren't. Like when I hear that, I laugh. When we post pop times, it's in a showcase setting, guys. The catcher knows he's thrown to second. So yeah, the times are going to be a little better. They're out of their crouch. Hearing people on Twitter complain about that stuff is mind-boggling. It's like, guys.
Well, let's talk about that one specifically for a second. So we all know, like in the big leagues, good pop times are like 2 seconds, right? Yep. Some guys will flash a 1.9, like a 1.8 is like incredible in a game. And yet, high school kids are saying, I throw a 1.8, I throw a 1.85. We're posting those numbers. So you get it. Like, it's not a real number, but why are we getting so far from what the actual number, like, you know what I mean? Like, if we know that it's not the right number, why do we get so far from it?
I think in our situation, we have to do the metrics for, you say, what can we do for a infielder? We can do the 60, right? We can test that and test arm strength. And then we can do the hitting. What can we do for a catcher? Well, we can get the arm strength, which is important. We have the 60, so we kind of have an idea what kind of foot speed they have, right? And then the pop time is the age old. It's like the 60. It's kind of like old school, but it's still there and sort of relevant. To me, it's like you could have a 72 mile an hour arm or an 83 mile an hour arm, and you could have the same pop time depending on your quickness, your release, your footwork. And the pop, I always say this now, if you followed any of my stuff recently, we have this many guys under a 2 or a 2 in a showcase setting, meaning the catcher he knows he's going to second, so he's already cheating. We can't stop these kids and restart them every time.
Yeah.
And they're also, these kids are there, and that's what people don't get. They're there to show the best they possibly can for their baseball resume. I mean, they are there to try to get a scholarship or to try to get an opportunity at the next level. So, you know, as long as we're being consistent with, it's a pop time in a showcase, glove to glove. That's what it is. If it says a 189, that's what it said that day. We'll show you on video. The reason it's that good is because he's out of his crouch. He's catching it forward. Okay, catching it like it's a known pitch out. But it's the thing that bothers me is that you have people that want to like dispute it, and I'm like, listen, it is what it is. It's in a showcase. In a game, it's going to be different. It's going to be less. They don't know they're throwing. They're catching. They have to receive the ball completely in the crouch before they get out. We tell them all the time, stay back, stay back. But again, they're trying to, like, you have to hand it to these guys. They're finding every little edge to try to make their numbers look better. And at the end of the day, we are a platform, and the college coaches have to do their work, do their job.
Yeah, that's fair. I get that answer. Bob, does that make sense to you?
Well, I think it's just all relative to, you know, if you've got 10 kids and they all run a 6.8 at a showcase, quote unquote showcase, nobody's really separating themselves, right? Like,
thank you for adding the quotes there. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I mean, if you've got catchers that are all 182 to 192 at a showcase, they're not really separating themselves from each other. Like, coaches understand when they're looking at these numbers, like, okay, they're not, like, it's all relative. Like, if a kid is 185 at a showcase and everybody else is 205, like, that kid is probably
he's better than everyone else that day.
He's better.
Yeah.
And then obviously you still need to use your eyes. You know, when I was coming through high school, showcases were basically like an invite only type thing. There were area codes. In Chicago, we had something called the Silver and Black Series, which was an invite only. And PBR actually started in Chicago. So the first ever magazine was my graduating class of high school. So we did like a showcase. They had an actual hard copy magazine that I think my parents still have somewhere. They did write-ups on everybody. It's actually pretty cool. It was like a, you know, something that had never been done before. But everything was relative. You know, if you're taking 3 crow hops and throwing across a diamond and you throw 84 and the guy next to you throws 92, it's obvious the kid that's throwing 92 has just a better arm. Like, he's obviously not 92 across the diamond in a game when his footwork matters and he's got to get rid of the ball. But it's all relative, and that's really what you're measuring relative to everybody else.
It's mind blowing to me because we're a great source for information, and the college coaches, you know, they need it. They can't be everywhere, especially now. They can't be anywhere, so they use us, but they still have to make their own decisions. But hearing like dispute the numbers, it's like it's just like, listen, you come and do your stopwatch on the kid that's throwing. We're not like, we don't have a vested interest here to make it better or worse. It's just the number. It's like I say this, the radar gun is the humbler. It has no heart. It's not your travel coach. It's not your trainer. It's not your mom or your dad. You can tell me 78, and I don't care that you were told you threw 85. It says 78 today, and that's the reality of what we're going to put down. We're not going to change the number because you had 85 last week in your mind or were told that. It's a humbler, no heart. That's what the radar gun is. Now we have TrackMan, which is in Major League Baseball. It's literally the industry standard of technology, the best ball flight information there is in the world in baseball. And I will still get questions like that, you know, that can't be right. I'm like, it's actually 100% right. Like, there's no
it's the most right it's ever been in the history of humankind, actually, sir.
It's the most right. And
you
know, it's like, it's not my opinion. It's like, we use lasers for 60s now because we got that. My son ran a 6.6 on the track with his track coach, and you had him at a 7.2. You must have did it wrong. No, ma'am. We are using lasers. No human error.
Which even the NFL Combine doesn't use laser still, right? Or maybe they've shifted.
I'm not
for
sure.
the longest time, they kept getting faster because they were lasered on one end but hand timed on the other, and they didn't want to. And they didn't want to go to dual lasers. And this is outdated information. They could have changed it by now, but at least as of a couple of years ago, they didn't want to go to 2 lasers because times were going to start slowing down. And every year there's a little increase. Like, guys are getting faster. There are more 4.4s and 4.3s, which are like insane. And they didn't want to like take a step back, which I kind of get. But like, it's just still like, why are we not using lasers at the NFL combine on both ends.
I think the biggest issue with that was false starts. Tons of false starts with double ends. We run into it all the time. Like if a kid lifts his leg before he starts, it triggers it. So the false starts are probably the biggest issue with the two-way, both ends. But yeah,
and that would make sense in baseball because the baseball stealing stance, always do a false start. Like it's the most anatomically efficient way to run. Like your front foot lifts up, it goes underneath you, and then you go forward.
Right.
That's been something that's been like debunked over time. Like people thought you got to mash that foot into the ground and then go forward.
No.
But in reality, the best sprinters in the world, I mean, you look at Ricky Henderson, he had a false step every time. Like his front foot lifts up, goes slightly back because it puts you in an efficient position and then you take off. So I guess that makes sense, right? With guys in that stance, they probably do it literally every time, right? Yeah.
I mean, and it goes back to what Bobby just said. Like we could have 6 guys at a showcase run a 6'8", okay, which is really, really premium athleticism, straight line athleticism.
Yeah, super fast.
A college coach still needs to know, does this guy know how to run the bases? Does this guy know how to like track a ball in the outfield? Like just because you have elite speed doesn't mean you play with elite speed, okay? I've seen guys that run 7'1", 7'2" that are phenomenal outfielders, take the best routes. They play better than a guy that runs 6'7".
Oh yeah, for sure.
And we have that experience because we see it. We see them in games. We scout the high school season. We scout tournaments. Our workload, and I'm not trying to toot our horn, but our workload is insane, and it's extremely long and tons of games and stuff under our belt. We're not just seeing guys in a showcase and that's it. We do this 24/7. We're out and about. You know, we're covering 2 tournaments this week. We covered one last week with 24 teams in Pennsylvania. No PBR. It's literally me sending guys there and paying guys to scout a tournament. No PBR logos on the fields, nothing. It's us just grinding for the players. So it's frustrating and absurd when people spout off. They have literally no clue about what they're talking about. And I don't have to get into it.
I got someone chiming in on Twitter here. I'm going to paraphrase. This is kind of long, but basically he said the numbers are objective, but what about the rankings? So I would like PBR, I know in Illinois they do rankings, you know, the 2022 class has 1 to 150. And I know I've experienced this with some of our players and their parents asking me, like, how come he's not ranked in the top 20? Like his numbers are just as good as the kid who's number 12. You know, his pop time is better than the kid who went to the same showcase. He's ranked lower. So what goes into all the rankings that you guys do on the website? And
it's a good question.
In a specific region.
Thank you for asking that question, whoever's out there.
So I'm only going to speak for New York and PA because obviously we're all different in our states, and everyone has a little bit different formats of how they do things. So the first thing I want to say about the rankings are they are extremely challenging to do. Okay. Extremely challenging. And it's obviously easier for us to look at it from a showcase setting. Like if we see you in a showcase, we obviously are seeing things. We have video, we have numbers, and we can start to correlate where you stack up in the rankings. If we see you in the high school season, we see you in a short game setting, you might bat 3 times, maybe you got walked twice. It's really hard to say to compare them apples and apples. So the rankings, I would say we do a lot based off of what we see at the showcase. And it's just like reality. Like we don't know everyone. We can't see everyone. There's 40,000 players in high school baseball in New York. 40,000 guys. There's 950 programs that have a JV and a varsity in New York alone. Pennsylvania, it's a little bit less. It's about 20,000. So between the 2 states, we're looking at 60,000 people. How are we supposed to know everyone? That's what parents don't get. They'll say, my kid's better than this kid. And I'm like, well, we haven't seen you. Like, we literally haven't seen you. So that's not fair. If you came to something, and that's where the business model comes in. And that's where then people will say, oh, it's, you know, you rank the players that come to your events. Well,
yeah. What else are you going to do?
When I hear the argument, I literally I just laugh. I say, well, if we don't know the kid and we didn't see him scouting, how are we supposed to know about how good your kid is? You know, like we have to see an event. That's why the events are there.
And I saw that shift firsthand because 3 years ago, We had a kid who he was in the top 30 of PBR rankings in Illinois since he was a freshman, because he had an early, like, I was the go-between between him and Louisville. He just started high school, and I was talking to Louisville on his behalf. It was a bizarre thing. But anyway, he didn't go to a PBR event until I think his junior year, but he was on the rankings for freshman and sophomore.
Yeah.
Like before that. So someone saw him. It's like word was out on him, obviously. So that's when I was like, oh, I guess they're doing something else. Like they're out there seeing kids who haven't been to a showcase yet. So anyway,
that's the thing too that bothers me. It's like we're out when we go out and scout the high school season, or when we scout area codes or the area codes tryouts or the Future Stars games, any of the big events, the national guys go out and see. If those kids are rankable, they are going to be in the rankings. They didn't pay us $1. They didn't pay us anything. And so you get so much misinformation out there. And the problem is people are impressionable fast. And a young parent that doesn't know anything, they might hear an ex-big leaguer running his mouth about stuff he has no idea about. And they're going to think, oh, he must know because he played in the big leagues. But they don't know. They don't have a clue what we're doing. They have like a small sample of it. And, we have tons of guys in our rankings that have never been to an event, so they haven't paid us anything. We put work in on them. But then if you do come to an event and you do well, absolutely, we're going to rank you because, you're supporting us. We're supporting you. We're trying to build a brand here. We're trying to help as many kids as we can. The kids should want to come, show that they are what they are. And then when we do the rankings, we're baseball guys. There's not one person on my staff that isn't a baseball guy. We're talking about actions, movements. What could we, what do we think this guy projects as? We don't see everyone in the game. So throw that out the window. All the people that want to talk crap, the grit, the heart. I don't have the ability to measure that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You need to see someone play 15, 20 times, how they treat their coaches, how they run on the field, off the field, how they act with their parents to determine what kind of character they have. I see them for 6 hours. I have to make a determination in the rankings. Come on, guys. I can't tell if he has a heart of a lion or if he's a weak snail. I can't tell his makeup. I can see a little bit maybe how he acts in his outing, but like that could be, it's very tough to do makeup. And the people that want to make that argument, get out of my timeline. Like I got no time for you because you're not being realistic. You're not thinking about the scope of what we're doing. So
well, and with the rankings, I have kind of like two little insights. But even for me as a coach, when I had 12 pitchers on one of my 15U team staff, there wasn't a significant difference between me ranking like one of my pitchers, like making a depth chart. Like, hey, Timmy's number 7 on my list, and Johnny's number 8, and he's number 9. Yeah. Like when you get out of the top like 4 or 5.
So hard.
Everyone beyond that is like kind of he could be 6th or he could be 8th. He could be my 3rd string shortstop or my 4th string. And I had a scout friend say the same thing. He's like, look, after the top 10 rounds, he's like, it's kind of a crapshoot about where guys go. You could go in the 13th round. You could just as easily go in the 32nd round. He said there just isn't this, like, we know that he's slightly better than this person. And so I can imagine you've seen a bunch of pitchers. What's the difference between a player ranked 47th and 51st? There's no difference. That's where I think, and don't let me speak for you, but in my experience ranking, just doing depth charts in my own academy and like analyzing players, there's no difference between a player who's ranked 108th and 113th. It's just the way they get folded into it. I mean, but that's my perspective. I mean, where are you on deeper on the ranking stuff?
And I take because I'm a left-hander, and I also think left-handers have, quite a bit of value. So if I have a lefty that's got a nice little arm action and maybe the frame still has a lot of time to develop, and the way this training is moving forward, in this century that we're in, it's like in the baseball world, like you can project these guys are probably going to get better because they're going to work out, they're going to get more physical. So if I see an 80-mile-an-hour lefty with a clean arm, and I have an 84-mile-an-hour righty that's just big, burly, and just has strength, I might weigh in on the lefty being slightly better. And the dad or the travel coach is going to say, we suck, we're terrible, we don't know how to do rankings because an 84 guy is below an 80 guy. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion. I have the right as the state owner that sets the way we do rankings to make my opinion. And it's just an opinion. It's not an absolute. You know, I might like an outfielder better than I like a first baseman. I might like a guy that swings it better than a really slick defender. I don't know. It's just really, it's up. And like when you get past 50, it is impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah. Because then you have to start keeping track of people. You're like, oh, this guy's good. He needs to be ranked. So it's like, does he go be above number 63 or is number 72? Like it's. I was doing this.
That's
go
where
ahead.
The issue is with like when you're dealing with parents, because I'm on the youth side and Dan used to be as well. Like I have a lot of parents that they ask me, is PBR worth it? Is PBR worth it? I said, you need to do one, like you need to get something out on the internet that has your numbers on it. But they're not inexpensive and some people don't have the means to do them. So it's when I get people that come back with, they perceive as like a bad ranking by PBR, they feel like they got underserved. It's like, well, do we do another one? Like this kid's ranked higher. And then if you look at his PBR profile, he's been a 3 or 4. And it's like, look, the more you do of anything, the better off. It's like the more you get in front of the same people, the better they're going to either you're going to either show better if you are better, or they're going to have a different opinion every time they see you. Like you can make a better impression if you're in front of them more. If you only go to 1, that's it. That's your impression. So if you're ranked 100th and you think you're better than the kid who's ranked 20th, like regardless of the kid who's ranked 20th, if he's gone 5 or 6 or 10 PBR events, like you have to show how he shows all the time. If you underperform at 1, you're not just going to be put ahead of him because whatever, like you perform better, your stats are better. Like it's all kind of relative. And I try and convey that to parents. It's like everybody wants to be ranked high. I get it. You want to be competitive. And kind of how you said, it's kind of a crapshoot once you get past the 40 or 50 range because everyone kind of gets lumped together. So if you want to be above those kids or make a better impression,
it's a bell curve for sure.
You have to be in front of those eyes more. Like if you want PBR New York to rank you higher, like yeah, if you perform well at your first one, you throw 91 off the mound, like you're on the radar. But if you underperform, how you said the one kid who shows up like, oh, I was 85 last week. Well, you were 78 here. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Like you were 78 here. I can only do what I only put a rating on what I see. I can't just go by word of mouth.
You know, 2 things. We had 2 guys at the New York State games just the past couple of days, which took part of my soul away from my body. We had 2 guys in the 21 class, 88 to 90 righties that we hadn't seen ever. And not because we're not out working our butts off, just because there's a lot of kids. Those kids were not ranked. They're going to be seniors in high school. They deserve to be, they're going to be in the top 15. So we have to adjust that. Does that mean that we're terrible at what we do? Hell no. That means that it's an impossible task for us to rank and be completely accurate. Okay. We do the best we can with what we see. And if you're a parent and you don't understand that because you haven't been to an event, it's impossible. And then on to what Bobby's saying, honestly, if you're coming to a PBR event or a perfect game event or a baseball factor event, whatever event you go to, and your sole purpose there is to be ranked, you should not be there. Like you're in it for the wrong reasons. You should be coming because you want to build your baseball resume. You want to have an area online that you can build to send to college coaches that better your chances of getting to the next level in some capacity. That is what we're there for. We're not there to make sure that your ranking is perfect. We're there to make sure we have your numbers, your video, a report, everything accurate, bundled in one area for you then to send to colleges. You still need to do the homework. You need to do your work. And I don't think anyone does it better than we do, especially at least in the Northeast, nobody even close. So it's, I get the ranking questions all the time. It is completely objective. It's challenging. It's the hardest task we do. I don't love it, but it's part of the job. And we try to be as fair, honest as we can be. We're baseball guys, so at least we're baseball guys doing it. We're not just going off metrics and numbers. We might like something about a player that has weaker numbers, but we can see something. That's, as you guys just have said, it's like an impossible task, and it just is what it is.
Well, and like you said, with like the stats, that was really good insight with the catcher stuff. Like the catcher stuff can't possibly be 100% like a laser time, right? Like it just can't, because you know they're going to cheat a little bit. You could, like you said, you could stop them every single time they cheat, but they're still going to continue to cheat. So I get that that's one that coaches need to take with a grain of salt and just watch the guys and see which ones they like, whatever. But for all these other stuff, like Bobby, you brought it up, like infielders throwing, from a 3-step crow hop as hard as they can across the infield to get velocity, they're not going to throw like that in a game ever either. So when you start to break down the actual amount of like measurement, of measurements that you can use to rank players objectively as possible, there's not really that many. Like your arm strength, your exit velo, your running speed. Like that's it. Those are the objective ones, right? And then after that, it starts to become, okay, this pitcher threw 92 from a crow hop across the diamond, but he's also really good at like making the plays, to his right side, and he's got great footwork. That's all subjective. That's all someone who's been around the game is evaluating him. And that's where it's really tricky, where a parent might not understand, like, yeah, my kid threw 92 across the diamond, the other kid threw 86 across the diamond. Why is he higher than me? So, well, because his feet are amazing. His hands are amazing. But there's no objective measurement tool for your hands as a player, is there?
No, I was talking.
No, you got to watch. Yeah.
I talked to a college coach a couple of years ago, and he was like, we'd like to see the glove time, because that's telling you, they're getting it in the glove and getting it out of it. I mean, they don't care if they throw 90 across the diamond.
No, no one does.
That's only in a really weird situation in the hole.
Yeah.
You need to throw a runaround. Yeah. I mean, 99% of the time, a ground ball is getting to second base in less than a second, or getting to shortstop in less than a second. You feel
like 70 miles per hour, if that. Yeah.
You get 75 across, nice and easy. You're getting the guy out every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, again, the numbers, like you said, some are objective, and then when we're doing the rankings, if it's me, it's my opinion. It's subjective. It's like, I think this guy is slightly better. And that's tough. And that's the tough business model, because you push some people out because they're ranked 190th and they're like, oh, I'm never going back again. They screwed me. And we're like, no, like so, you know what I mean? Like, we're actually putting ourselves on the line a little bit with the rankings, because our job is to make sure we have showcases filled. And if you upset parents because they have a different opinion of their player, it becomes real hairy. So I talk to as many parents as I can. I try to do the best with communication, because I think that's key in what we do. If you are good communicators with parents, they start to understand. I've never had a conversation, and we could pull my biggest hater up, whoever it is, on this conversation, and I promise you, within 10 minutes, we will be on the same page. I have a knack with being able to bring people together and work out differences really quickly, and understand where I'm coming from. I'm going to understand where you're coming from, and we're going to be in that middle point somewhere. You don't have to agree with everything we do, but you're going to respect our workload, I promise you. And I don't have to agree with your thoughts about me, but I'm going to understand and respect your opinion. And I've been very good at that, and I think that's why we have a lot of success, and all my staff guys are very good at that. We communicate. People in the baseball world, amateur world, it's almost like they don't know how to communicate. They don't answer emails, or they don't take calls. In my business, you have to communicate with people, because they are only worried about their son. That's it. They're not worried about what I'm trying to figure out, the planning, the scheduling, getting this or that. They don't understand that. They are only focused on their son. And you know what? I get it. Only worry about your son. And so when I have a chance, I'm going to talk to you privately. We're going to get through the problem. And I guarantee you, you're going to leave and say, you know what? I might not have loved the results there, but I respect these guys and what they're doing, and we're going to work harder. We're going to come back and show better. That I've always said, if you don't like your numbers, that's not on me. That's on you. If you don't like your numbers, come back later and show me that you've worked harder. Don't let's have accountability. This world in general needs more accountability, especially at the younger ages. You got to look in the mirror and say, have I done everything I possibly can to get better? And if I haven't, don't blame this guy, that guy, this person. Look in the mirror and take accountability. Now I'm getting into Arnold mode, and I might need to take.
Yeah. Well, and it is.
That's really good. Go ahead, Dan.
I mean, yeah, it's people I don't think have a good frame of reference. And this is also a weird thing where most parents whose kids are in the hunt to play college baseball, they're incompetent evaluators of their own kid. And the word incompetent comes off really negative, but I'm not a competent evaluator of a tax professional or a figure skater or name any other sport. If I had a daughter who was a gymnast, I would be an incompetent evaluator of her gymnastics ability. So I don't know the first thing about gymnastics. But yet, this is what most parents are. They've watched their kid play baseball their whole life, but they don't have the baseball expertise to really say how good their kid is compared to kids they've never seen before. They know that maybe like little Johnny's the best player on their team because anyone can kind of see that. They can see like athleticism and the results on the field, but they can't see how he stacks up to some kid 4 states over, what the talent level is in general, what the hypothetical archetype of a D1 baseball player is. That's really where the divide is. And how could I judge my fake gymnastics daughter against all the gymnasts in the world of her age? I have literally no idea what they look like compared to her. I only know what she does. So that's what's really challenging, is then they'll come up at you and say, you don't know what you're talking about. Whereas like, they don't know what they're talking about. Right. It's hard. It's hard.
Well, how about this though? This is the greatest piece, I think, of PBR. And you guys tell me your opinion. This is the question to you guys, or a statement with a question, but the best piece, I think, is the fact that the kids can actually go look at a kid in their same grad year, in Texas or California, the same position, the same similar height and weight, and say, what is this guy doing who's committed to Texas doing differently than I'm doing? And I don't have any offers. And you can start comparing videos and numbers. If you're a competitive player, that is going to drive me to get better and to get to the next level. And PBR is able to do that because we have so many videos. And if you come to an event, the first month we give you in New York and Pennsylvania a free month. I think they do it around the whole state to watch your video. And so you can go now look at everyone's state, every kid, and start comparing yourself. So that is a huge, huge tool, for development. Am I right or am I wrong?
Bob, you can go first.
Video is huge. It's just the disconnect of parents who want the best for their kids and are also biased towards their own kids. I mean, I run a program. I was telling Dan, through text, like the last 2 days just been getting parent after parent coming at me like my son should be playing more, whatever issues they may have with their own team. And it's like, look, first of all, I'm not in it to be biased. Like I don't take anything out on a 15-year-old kid or a 16-year-old kid. If he's playing well, like he's going to play more. If he's struggling, like he's going to play less. This is the world which you live in. There's only 9 spots on the field and there's anywhere from 12 to 15 players on the team. You don't always get to play every game. It's not recreational because once you get to the high school age, it's too expensive for you to want to do anything but try and take it to the college level. And if you're not trying to do that, you're probably playing the wrong, club team or sport. I mean, it's not like your 11U team where it's just a bunch of neighborhood kids and you're playing together. But at the same token, it's like, yeah, like you said, there's so many kids out there that you can find information on. And yeah, your son has no offers and the kid weighs the same and is the same height has 20 offers. Well, is that kid who has all the offers, what's he doing that your son's not? It's not Dan is biased against my son and he's not ranking him high enough so my son has no offers. If there are situations like that, they're very few and far between, and it's probably not happening to your own kid. There's a disconnect with, is your son doing enough to be on the same level as the kid that you're comparing him to?
Yeah.
What about just the simple fact that we're providing the platform, but the colleges are making their decision, and they all have their own things that they see fit for their program. So you could have a very similar player, but the college coach has a different feel for what he sees or what he likes. So that kid has an offer, the other one doesn't. There's, logically that isn't anything to do with me or what we're doing, but It doesn't always come off that way. It comes off like, this kid got a better opportunity because you tweeted about him. And, we did 300 social media posts, scouting sort of tweets, guys at pitchers, hitters, defenders that we like, over 3 days, 300 over 3 days. and there will still be someone that write me and say, you didn't post enough on the catchers, or you didn't post enough on the infielders. And I'm like, things are moving fast. My guys are literally there for 20 hours, but we put 300 guys up. We also live streamed it to 179 colleges. We also had 35 colleges there in person to watch. Like, if there's not a bigger platform, I don't know what is. But you know, you'll never make everyone happy. And unfortunately, I have really thin skin, and it bothers me. It really bothers me because I know what my staff is doing. I know that they're providing for their families through what we're doing, and they're working their butts off. And it's just, sometimes it can be really frustrating, but for the most part, it's really positive. Everyone appreciates what we do. You're always going to have, you know, people that are negative, or you're always going to have people that don't like what they're doing because they feel like they should have got more, or, you know, it's just, isn't that just life? Isn't that the world we're living in? This guy shouldn't be the president of a company. He shouldn't be the director.
I thought you were just going to say president of the United States. I got excited.
Yeah, there's that, right? We could go down a whole nother rabbit hole with that. So it's probably best we don't.
Yeah. Well, to your point, for people that don't realize, I've seen your Twitter feed recently, and was, you know, on the PBR New York and doing some prep for the show today. It's an exhausting amount of work going through video and editing it. For people that don't know, I mean, even my YouTube videos, the ones that are simpler, for those of you who watch my YouTube channel, where it's just me talking to the camera and not a lot of production, it still takes me 2 hours start to finish to record it, edit it, post it, do all that stuff. And then if you're going through all this video for all these kids, you're cutting out the 40 seconds where they actually show themselves well. And then you're figuring out who this kid is, what their numbers are, putting all their, like, it's a lot of work for one freaking 20-second video post. It's a lot of work. And so when I was looking through your feed, I'm like, oh my God, this is, I know you have a lot of people helping with that, and it's a lot of work, but it's just a lot. I mean, we try to do this in my academy when we did our own couple combines. It's just a mountain of work. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate, and I'm like, look, the recruiting process is different for everyone. I mean, some kids can get the whole thing done without going to a single showcase if they're good enough. If they're really good about sending emails, they take their own videos and they send them out. I mean, there's a different way to do this for everybody. But I mean, to have resources, and there's PBR and there's Flatground app if you want to get your video tweeted out. There's all these different ways to do it. But and you're right. I mean, back to your question about comparing to other players in the country, I think that's a really unique, it's got a unique positive spin for kids today, because I remember when I was a high school senior, I just didn't understand why no one cared. Like, I'm like, where are the scouts? Like, why aren't they? I'm pretty good, aren't I? I had no idea. I had heard about Gavin Floyd, who was getting drafted, you know, a year before me, or maybe he was a couple more years older than me, but he was like getting $4 million. He's in the Baltimore Sun. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I'm like, but not one person called me. And you don't understand the difference at all between me throwing 78 to 81 and Gavin Floyd throwing 90 to 94 as a high school junior, you know,
with heavy sink.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you just don't understand that there's such a massive gap. There's like the biggest gap ever. And so now you can see all these different kids and like why you're not committed to Texas Christian as a freshman or sophomore or whatever. But at the same time, I think it can also be a pit of despair for kids who are like, why don't I throw 92 as a freshman? It's like, because that's not normal, you know, like, because you're a freak of nature. That kid's a freak of nature, and you can't train yourself out of that too. I mean, where do you fall on that, Dan? I mean, do you feel like kids can, there's got to be I think it's probably hard for them to say, this is good for me to compare myself to others because I can work harder. This is the standard I'll be held to. But at the same time, why can't I do that? Right? Is there some of that too?
I'm a big believer in real, honest self-evaluation, looking in the mirror and being real. I think you can get better. Everyone can get better. You can work hard and you can achieve more things. You can get faster. You can throw a little bit harder if you get stronger and more flexible and you put in a routine. But there's guys that are going to always be better. There's going to be guys that are naturally born to play baseball. They're going to have insane fast twitch muscles. They're going to have really flexible joints, and they're going to throw super hard. They're going to be longer. They're going to have long arms. They're going to, whatever it is, that's just going to be the way the game is. I never worked out in high school, and I threw 91. It is just how God built me. And
And this was back in when? This was 2000, like 2000?
I got drafted in 2002. And
so 91 back then was like 116 today.
I got to believe 91 back then was pretty damn good.
And that's why I say that, because kids today, like people in general, don't have a frame of reference anymore. Like if you go back every 5 years, like add 2 miles per hour to what like it was. Like so many kids throw 91. Like you see them now. You see sophomores that throw 91. But 2002, 91 as a high school junior was really hard. That's like throwing 96 today.
Yeah,
probably right. It was super hard. It's unheard of to throw that hard. I mean, you're going D1 if you're throwing 86 back then.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean,
so it's different.
I had first round pre-draft deals for the first round, going into the first day of the draft, and I slipped to the third round. Who cares? Like it was awesome. It was awesome. But like, yeah, I mean, I was in that top 100 in the country, throwing 88 to 91. Now, if I'm a lefty out of the Northeast throwing 88, 91, I'm probably still in the top 5 rounds, maybe depending on stuff, but I could be easily a 6th or 7th rounder. So it's
still very high, folks. Yeah.
Still very high. If you're 6'4", throwing 88 to 91, and you're left-handed out of somewhere in the Northeast, you're probably going to get drafted pretty
well. And like you said, you were 6'4", 165, so they're looking at you and saying, "Wow, this kid's already throwing 90." And then 4 years from now, he becomes a man and he's 220 pounds. Now our 88 to 91 is 92 to 95, and we've got a big league, number 2 starter on our hands. That's where they're projecting you for sure.
That's almost exactly how I was projected out. My third year, I went all the way to AAA at 21, and I was like the 5th best prospect in the organization. And I had a great year the year before that. I had a lot of conviction. I finally started believing in what I had. I threw hard inside, fastballs in all the time, and off speed away, and I just attacked hitters. And I was really moving, and that was really what I was. I was a 90 to 93 guy, lefty, threw hard in, soft away, and attacked. And that was basically what I did. So, yeah, it was. I wish I could go talk to an earlier me and tell me to get in the weight room a little harder and take it a little more serious. I was young, I was impressionable, I wanted to have fun and chase girls and party, and I wish I would have been a little bit more regimented at an earlier age in pro ball. And it's a shame because I had a ton of just natural talent, like a ton. And that's kind of where my whole personal Twitter is now, is knowing some of the things that I did and trying to just reinforce every day to these kids how important it is to get out and grind and work hard, and don't think it's going to be handed to you. Baseball is a game of adjustments, and you need to be able to make those adjustments, and you're going to fail all the time. And I'm trying to get those messages across in a positive way. And it seems to be received pretty well, but there's no ego here with me. It is literally, my goal is to help kids. I've had countless people email me or direct message me about questions for their kids, routines. I have never, ever taken $1 from anybody via my Twitter account, ever. And I know there's people out there that are trying to make a living right now off their Twitter account, trying to build a brand, selling crap. I will never do that. My personal Twitter is to help you. It's for free, and that's the bottom line. I wish I could make money off it, but I'm not smart enough to do that. So I'm just going to keep pounding away at it, trying to help the kids. I'm big now into lifting, obviously, but I think there's a safe way to do that. When I went back to college in the middle of AA, I went and got my sports management degree. I did it all online, had a concentration in wellness and fitness. So another cool little thing to our movie plot here is I actually am certified nationally to be a strength and conditioning coach. So I got a lot of little feathers. I got a really, like, I can operate cranes. I can drive trucks. I can be a strength coach. I can throw a baseball. I can lift weights. Like a lot of crazy things going on. And it's a wild life. And hopefully I'm making an impact in a good way on people.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dan, how can people follow up with you as we wrap up the show here? Where would you like them to tune in to you and your message?
Yeah, if they just go to my personal Twitter, which is really just at Dan Cevette, send me a message. I don't know everything. I'll be honest with you. I don't know everything about pitching. I don't know everything about anything, but I have a lot of great experience, and I was a sponge when I played, and I took in all the information I could, and I squeezed out what didn't work for me, and I kept what did. And I'm here to help give that advice out. I'm not going to be negative. I'm not going to talk bad about people. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to only reinforce that. And that's just the way it's going to be. I'm going to try to stay out of the negative world and stay only in the positive world. I appreciate being on a show like this where you guys are pumping the positive message, and that's what this is about. No one has to agree with everything that I do or everything PBR does, but they need to look into things a little bit deeper and respect the workload, because it's not, we're not sitting here kicking our feet up. I'll promise you that.
Yeah, for sure. Bobby, closing statements, sir.
I think it's just a good informational podcast here about what parents need to expect from a showcase.
Yeah, like we
what
covered a lot.
what the point of the showcase is. If you don't have anything to showcase, don't go there expecting someone to pump you up as if you did have something to showcase. And if you do have something to showcase, make sure you perform well when you get that opportunity. It's not like you said, it's an objective measurement of your skills. You know, if you want a subjective measurement of your skills, you need to seek out a coach or a scout to give you a feedback on what you do well and what you don't do well on the field during gameplay. But if you're just looking for what you measure as far as your baseball resume, that's what a showcase is for. And you need to make sure you're ready to showcase that in front of people who are essentially objective, just measuring what you can do physically.
Yeah, Dan, appreciate you being on the show. It's a great conversation. Like I said, I do think we got to a lot of the myths and the deeper part of the showcase grind. And like I said, I appreciate you sharing the workload that you guys have and your message for players. And I think this is really helpful for a lot of parents and families out there.
I would welcome the opportunity to jump back on with you guys whenever. I like what you guys are doing, and I want to keep pumping the positive message. So anything I can do to help moving forward, you guys please contact me. And like I said, if there's anyone on here that's listening that has questions about anything, I'll shoot me a message, and I'll be glad to chat with you about it.
Yeah, so if you're out there listening in podcast land, once we get this edited and up, follow Dan at Dan CEVETTE on Twitter. Dan, thanks again, and we will see you all next time on the Morning Brushback.